Thank you everyone for joining us on this webinar brought to you by the Ethical Hacker Network, a free online magazine and community for security professionals. Well, as promised, this month we get our hands dirty with actual definitions and not buzzwords, with real examples and not a bunch of what-ifs. And in true EHNet style, we don't just demo the latest tech and show you how you can sound like the cool kid on the block. We're actually going to show you concrete steps on what data science is, how to do it, and most importantly, what does the job landscape look like?
So I was inspired, so hearing Don talk about the economics of security data science, I was inspired to throw in a couple extra slides last minute on the role of artificial intelligence in the economy at large and the tech industry specifically. So if you, excuse me, if you go back and look at the history of the world economy over the last few centuries, right, really back up and take a bird's eye view, it becomes apparent quickly that each industrial revolution that occurred, right, and there were really multiple industrial revolutions, was driven by a technological paradigm shift. So security data science is a big tent. There are I would say 3 arms of security data science. There's machine learning, so these are algorithms that learn to solve problems from data. So a classic example in the security space would be a neural network malware detector that we train using training examples to detect malware, and then it automatically detects whether a file is malicious or benign. That's machine learning. We're going to be focusing specifically on deep learning. Here's an example application of deep learning. So what we have here is a James Bond video playing at about 30 frames per second, and overlaid on top of it is the output of a neural network vision system. So here's an example of a neural network that learns to play a game. This is a fun toy example. There are real examples of using this kind of technology in robotic systems. But what we're seeing here is a neural network that has learned from scratch how to play Super Mario. So here I'm typing in one that hopefully you guys agree looks suspicious, right? And then the neural network agrees, it thinks that it's malicious. And I can permute the URL. So just to show that we're not doing exact keyword matching, that the neural network is actually reading the URL character by character, right? And even as I permute the URL, it still sees that it's malicious, right? Because it's doing what the neural network is doing. It was trained on 125 million examples of good and bad URLs, and it's learned general patterns and syntax and semantics that pertain to malicious URLs, right? So even if I change the suffix, depending on the suffix, it thinks it's more or less malicious. In the case of our URL neural network, when you start looking at the connection structure in the neural network, you find that it's learned really interesting things. So in this case, our URL neural network learned all by itself that these uppercase characters are all conceptually similar, right? Punctuation marks are all conceptually similar. Digits are all conceptually similar. Lowercase characters are conceptually similar. So it did this. It didn't know any of this before we started training it on tens of millions of URLs. But it's really interesting once you start introspecting inside of these neural networks to see the concepts that they learn all by themselves as they learn to solve the problem that you're giving them.
Stay tuned for next time. Until then, thank you so much and happy holidays to everyone. Have a good day.